and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Edvis is Africa's leading digital educational platform, which enables administration, communication, finance, teaching, and learning beyond the classroom. Edvis allows you as a parent to access and track your child's academic reports and personal growth at any time, giving you a better understanding of your child's academic performance.
Have a nice day at school.
We give you the security and reassurance you need to excel in your daily activities and manage your financial obligations to your child's education. Edvis provides an administrative and management system which enhances accountability, teamwork, and growth needed for a thriving organization. Which brings perfect results. Teach creatively, learn effectively, track your child's performance easily, and do so much more with Edvis. Edvis, digital education. Visit www.edvis.net to get started now.
Okay, so welcome everyone. I'd like to welcome us all to this webinar. We'll be starting off in a few minutes.
This used to be me. Not anymore.
With EdVest, I can oversee and access all my school records from any part of the world. From a single dashboard, I track enrollments, monitor e-learning activities from homework uploaded to video lessons shared, as well as e-notes and CBT. I view payments inflow at a glance, monitor performance, and track attendance. Running a paperless school and reducing operational costs is possible with EdVest. EdVest CBT makes conducting school exams seamless, both online and on the school premises. It gets better. Parents can monitor their children's performance and pay fees. Amazingly, the days of being owed by parents are over. Parents can access school fees loan and you get paid in full. Students have access to assignments, video lessons, e-notes, quizzes, virtual classes, and over 160 math and science simulations. Beyond all this is EdVest's amazing support. It is top-notch. Over 1,300 schools across 10 countries in Africa use and love EdVest today. To see a free demo, log on to www.edvest.net/free demo. Use EdVest today.
Okay, so welcome everyone to this month's webinar. The theme for the webinar would be Unleash with Data in Schools. Please do well to state your name on the chat and put a message on where you're joining us from. Welcome. Okay, so as we kick off, I'd like to welcome everyone again to today's webinar on Unleash with Data in Schools. We're thrilled to have you join us as we explore the transformative power of data-driven decision-making in shaping the future of education in Africa. Over the past decade, significant progress has been made in education across the continent. According to UNESCO's Institute for Statistics, primary school enrollment rates have steadily increased, and programs such as the African Girls Education Initiative are actively addressing barriers in female education through scholarships, advocacies, and improved school environments. Additionally, the integration of technology into classroom is accelerating, with many schools adopting digital tools to enhance learning and teaching. Despite these advancements, the challenges in Africa's education system remains immense. According to UNESCO's 2022 data, 35% of children fail to complete primary education, and secondary school completion rates has dropped below 50% in many countries. A 2022 World Bank report also reveals that nearly 70% of children aged 10 in sub-Saharan Africa cannot read or understand a simple text, highlighting a growing crisis in foundational learning. In 2023, UNESCO also reported that 9 million girls aged 6 to 11 are out of school compared to 6 million boys, with rural areas experiencing the highest disparities. There is also teacher shortage in schools, as a 2023 African Union report estimates that Africa needs 17 million new teachers by 2023 to achieve universal basic education, while teachers are currently facing inadequate training and overcrowded classrooms, which is severely impacting the quality of education. These statistics remind us of the critical need for innovative and informed solutions. Data-driven decision-making offers a powerful way to tackle these challenges. By understanding patterns and trends, educators, policymakers, and stakeholders can not only address the existing gaps, but also anticipate future trends. This shift from a reactive to proactive strategy will enable us to take transformative steps towards creating a brighter educational future. We look forward to exploring these possibilities together. Thank you once again for being part of this vital conversation. So, joining us to dissect this topic is Mr. Dimeji Falana, the CEO of EdVest. Welcome, sir. We're happy to have you here with us.
Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate the invitation to be part of your program, even though it's EdVest program, but I'm also happy to be here. Thank you.
Great. So let's jump right in. So, sir, the data says that nearly 70% of children aged 10 in sub Saharan Africa are unable to read or understand a simple text. How can teachers, administrators, and parents use data to identify students who are struggling early and design targeted intervention programs for foundational literacy and numeracy?
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for that question. And you actually made it really robust for me to think very well. I think the first thing from my experience is that learning is a journey. You know, if we don't see learning as something that happened in a moment, then we will be able to look at what what should happen at what stage in learning. Students that are struggling in the class, that is a situation that is not just one thing that we can pinpoint and say, this is what has caused it. There are several things. It might even be that the child has not eaten today. You understand that? It might be that there was a challenge at home in the morning. It might be that the parents have issues. You understand? It might be that the child is even tired, and that might be a repeated situation that has happened over time that has made the child to be struggling. So when we see learning as a journey, to say, where is this child? Where do you want this child to be after the learning, after the classroom sessions? And before you are now assessing the child, maybe at the end of the term or at the end of the week, or what exactly are you benchmarking as a skill that a child should get from this class or from this scheme of work or topic? Then we'll begin to pay attention to every dot that needs to connect. Now, discovering students that are struggling and the intervention to be created is still within the process. If you look at it, basic education is 9 years at minimum. And every child will start from maybe kindergarten and then they enter primary one all the way. They move and move. In some private schools, it might be maybe they still not combining the basic education together to be 9, maybe primary classes all the way to 5 or 6, and then the secondary class all the way to SS3. When a child steps into the class for day one, the process starts, and everything the child is learning is linked to another thing. So the process needs to be focused on to say the child that stepped into the class, has the child been identified properly? If we have a quality identification and we have the record in place, we can now begin to capture the data against the identity of the child. And from there, we will be able to know that, okay, others are, everybody is supposed to perform at 70% of understanding in the particular topic. If this child perform at 35%, it means if we take a topic that is higher than this, in line of these thoughts, then it means the child will struggle. So, but if we don't capture the initial data points where the child is struggling, when you are treating basic foundation, let's say, for instance, you want to teach cell theory, and then the first engagement you have with the student is that you are giving them definition of cell, understanding the history and citing examples, and the child is not getting it. By the time you start getting to chromosome, nucleus, and everything will fall apart. So it is important that when we identify the student first, that starts the journey. And identification is, you can combine it, you can make it a digital one where students are registered properly in a system, and also identification in the sense that what has been the priority knowledge of that particular child in the topic you want to teach. Learning don't happen in a vacuum. There's a connection. So it's a journey. So when we see learning as a journey, we will not expect one moment to determine the outcome of a child in that particular topic or scheme of work. So what I want to say is that how to use data to intervene is that seeing everything as a journey, and it begins with identify the student, where are they coming from in terms of understanding, and then now begin to capture every classes in a way that you are able to quantitatively and qualitatively record assessments of where every child is, so that when you are building on top of the teaching, then you'll be able to know who to pay attention to. Someone that has not understood cell theory, when you are taking the class again, you know them and you quickly isolate them for a kind of brush up before you mount up any other thing on top of the learning. But if you don't know in the first place, or you ignore the data, then the child will struggle. And then when you build on top of it, you get to DNA, you get to every other thing in the topic, then everything will fall apart and the child will never recover in that topic again. And in most cases, it happens that when a child leaves a class, in some schools, they just promote everybody. And it means that the foundational knowledge has dropped off. And that affects every topic, every subject. It is the same thing, process in every topic, in every subject. It is very important to pay attention to process of teaching. And that is how to discover those that are struggling.
Thank you very much. I think just to summarize, take away from this, one, definitely data should, the tracking of data should start early, right? As early as the child begins school, the teachers, the school administrators should actually have records of what the student is doing at every class category. Also, you highlighted that an entire journey, and a child going from, let's say, nursery 1 to nursery 2, what has taken place in the first chapter, the school should actually be able to call on that data to understand the current situation of the student. If a child goes to a new class and the data for that previous class is not properly understood by the new teacher, the assist that child. So that movement of data to another, making it a continuous journey, it's key to solve the issue of, especially in relations to literacy and numeracy. Thank you very much for that, sir. I'll take for, so I'll just our guests. Please do well to put questions on clarification on anything in relations to data, or even in relations to the feedback that we're getting from our speaker. Okay, so the data also shows that there's a large rate of dropouts in schools, right? About 35% of children are failing to complete primary school, and it's worse in secondary school, with the dropout rate being about 50%. How do you think we can use data to help schools and parents monitor things like and the risk factors to actually reduce this rate of dropouts in schools?
Yes, so dropouts, I think this has been a challenge prevalent in maybe public schools more than the private schools. And even private schools, students change schools and we don't even know where they are. But I think this challenge is more in the public schools because maybe because they are free, maybe because of so many reasons. Students that drop out in public schools, the data shows that the cause for this issue are in different shapes. Some because of displacement, like for instance, maybe because of terrorism, they can't go to school again. Some because of finance, because of economic issues, they don't have money to buy uniform, to buy books, to do so many things for them and send them to schools. Some because of personal reasons of their parents to say, if I take my kids to school, then they won't be able to support me at home to build my business and to be able to fend for the family. Selfish reasons. Some because the school is far away, because the school is far away, they can't actually go there. And some because of the fear of what has happened to other people that have gone to school, maybe because they've been kidnapped before. And there are many reasons, you understand, that make students to drop out. But what I will advise from my own experience is that Every government agency needs to set a target, and we need to be realistic with ourselves to see where are we and where are we supposed to be after 1 year. For instance, we enroll properly 1,000 students, and by the end of the session, how many is expected to drop out? Is it 3 or 4? Then we set that we set that as a target, and then we work towards it. But in the first instance, if the government agencies don't even know the number of students in the school, how can they set a target? You understand? How can they set a target that at the end of the academic calendar, this is the number of the student that we want retained in the school? Yes, we hear about school census. School census that are done for public and private schools are done maybe once in 2 years, which is too late to even know those that are dropouts. So there is a need for a real-time checking where the government will set a target to say we expect 1% of students to churn realistically for all these reasons that we cannot control. Then it must not be more than that 1%. Then we get the area managers of education, the zonal managers of education, the heads of school, even in private and public, to be aware of the data and the target we are setting for this academic calendar, either in a term or in a year, and to work towards it. We set targets for negative things. We don't always set targets for positive things. We can set target for positive things and also set target for negative things to say we don't want this number to drop beyond this stage. And then we all work towards it. And by the time it is at the end of the academic, we need to be realistic with the data to say, where do we stand? Head of school, we gave you 500 students at the beginning of the term. How many are you returning back to us at the end of the term? Are you paying attention to data? What intervention are you creating to make sure that those that are not coming to school, that have tendency of not coming again, what have you done? So if we don't create this clarity, awareness, and if we don't have it in a very honest manner, we will not be able to reduce the dropouts, because data can never lie. Data makes truths to be clear. And if we are honest about the data, we will get results. Any other thing will be a guesswork. And at the end of the day, it will be, we hope students don't drop out. We don't pay attention to data. We hope the student enrollment increases. We don't even know the number. We need to know the number, and we need to communicate with the public. And that is when the public will take us serious and participate in reducing the dropouts. In some countries, they can even arrest a parent that keep their kids at home. You get it? So those are legislations that can be placed in. I know Nigeria, from they have one or two things law, but we need to enforce the law after we have paid attention to data, after we have been honest with our processes and practices around enrollment and setting the right target, carrying everybody along from Ministry of Education, the zonal leaders, the area leaders, the local government leaders, and the head of schools, both in private and public schools. After everybody is sensitized and trained on what to do, that is when we can now go to the public and say, join these movements. And that is when the public has now been orientated and sensitized. Then that is when we can now begin to say, if you don't enroll your kids, then this is a penalty. If we don't work in this manner, everything will be like as if we don't know what we are doing, just like where we are now.
Okay, thank you very much for that response. So my takeaway. So first of all, you started with us really understanding the data, right? Understanding what the past trends has been in relations to students dropouts in schools, and then once we understand the past trends, we can truly and realistically set targets for. It could be the next academic session, just so that we can then, or school administrators, the governments, and other educational agencies can start creating relevant plans or active plans to meet that target. So if we understand the data, we set realistic goals, and then we create intervention plans to retain students, and then also getting the public involved, right? Like you said, when there are laws but there are no punishments, then people flaunt rules, right? So I believe that if we get all these in track, we track the
Yes.
previous data, we plan. So it's a conscious effort. We don't have to start looking for solutions at the end of the term. But if we plan properly at the beginning, we can then make active plans to solve problems. We can follow up. And then, if at the end of the term we do not actually even meet our targets, we can understand why and go back to course correct. Thank you very much for this. Like I said, everyone, please do well to put your questions on the chat, and we'll do well to respond to them. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for that feedback, sir. Okay, so the next question we have is around the shortage of teachers in the education space. We know that this is a very challenging problem. We have classes that are overcrowded. You could have one teacher to funny enough, I have worked in an education space where I, as a teacher, I was taking about 96 students within one physical space. We have the challenge of lack of teachers training. And the data is showing that we still need about 17 million teachers, right, by 2023, just to achieve the standard or the basic universal education goals. 17 million teachers. So how can we use data? How can school administrators, how can the government, how can school owners use data to optimize the current teachers allocation, assess teachers training, and also improve the workload management for teachers?
Yes, that a lot of work needs to be done in this aspect, because I know this is a big challenge in the public schools. I've been to public schools that you see 120 students in a class, of which there's supposed to be like ratio of one teacher to 30 students, and this the situation is really poor, and this has affected a lot of public schools and some private schools. It is just about planning, because there's a limit to how many students a teacher can parent every business day. Teaching is actually parenting, if you look at it in that sense. So you cannot truly have students in large number in your heart at the same time, because teaching is from the heart. The real teachers are the ones that teach from the heart. So if truly you want to teach, there's a little to what you can do, in terms of number of students. Because you see teacher traveling in their heart to make sure that they use every means to make sure that the student understand what they are teaching. But when the number is so much, the quality will drop, and the teachers will think, oh, I'm overwhelmed. So there are needs. Let's start from the top. We need political will to build schools, to build more classes, and to enroll teachers and train teachers and give them capacity to function with good remuneration. Political will can drive this. There's little to what we in the private sector can do to this. All we can do is to run advocacy, like what I'm doing, to see that we have political will around education. I wrote an article about how we can actually increase the GDP of a state or a country using classroom teaching and learning. It's on my LinkedIn. Political will is important to get this sorted. But also, I want to add to it that the current teachers in the school needs to be trained, needs to be respected, and needs to be paid well and taken care of. Another advocacy. But for the teachers, if you find yourself in a class of 120 students on Monday and you are listening to me today, we also expect you to do some things differently. You can't wait until there are more recruitment because students are growing every day. The age of a student today in primary one, by the time they're in primary two, the age has increased. There are students that if care is not taken, they will never recover from what they are supposed to learn from you that you have not taught them well in their life. So we need to see situations to say these students are growing. And if we don't do something to improve and accelerate and unleash quality teaching, then we will raise graduates that cannot contribute meaningfully to the society. So, my advice for the teachers, look at how you can do little automation. Ability grouping. A class of 120 can be grouped into 5 based on student ability. And then you have each other teach each other. You have people that they quickly understand some things better. Then you have them to teach others. You can put them in groups to do projects together. Because students, I can remember very well that there was a time I was discussing with my wife that why is it that every time we turn on TV and then we see a small boy or a small girl speaking like less than age 10, our children always talk to them and pay attention? Because children listen more to their peers. So when you find yourself in a class of 120, break them into groups, create innovative pedagogy on how students can teach each other. Get ability grouping in place. A, B, C grade student, not to discriminate, but to segment your class in a way that you can pay attention to every group of learners, so that homework given to some group will be different from homework given to another group. Attention given to some group will be different from attention given to, so that at the end of the day, you have done what we call divide and conquer in computer science. You divide the class and then you teach them differently. And then you have them to teach each other as well. That way, you can do that innovation without waiting for government. And you can begin to get good response from students because they listen to each other better. Tutorials in the universities, sometimes some people perform better even than lecturers teaching them when they go for tutorials that their mates teach them. And also in primary school, we can begin to do that, so that even after class, they will be so close to each other in a way that they can even decide to stay back in the school and say, we want to spend 30 minutes more and teach each other before going home. Thank you. Let me drop it on that.
Okay. Yes. Thank you very much for that feedback. You highlighted one political will, right? Political will to train, to recruit new teachers, to train the existing teachers, and also to build structures and to build the physical structures where the teachers would work. And this is very important. If we have, from the data perspective, if we actually have, I know we have some of this data, but if we can actually understand the situation, understand that 90 teachers to one student is an abnormality, and the government and institutions have the political will to actually create conducive and favorable environment, then we can definitely improve teaching and learning. Also, the respect. And so I think this is something we know, but it's not really talked about much. The respect for people in the education profession and the money that people in the education professions are also paid. There actually needs to be a look, because a country is only as good as the quality of its teachers. And you also talked about the teachers also. The teachers themselves have a role to play. While we're waiting for administrators and we're waiting for agencies to provide conducive environment, with the little we have, we can actually create things like automation, students groupings in our classroom, and consciously create and track patterns of learning, understand things that works best in class, and try to utilize that as best as possible. Thank you very much for that. Like I said, everyone, please do not hesitate to put your questions on the group, and we'll take your questions as we proceed. We're taking a Thank you very much for all you have said, Mr. Dimeji. We'll be taking a short break, and when we return, we're going to focus more into the classroom and how teachers can data that they come to track and improve learning outcomes for students. Thank you very much once again, and please stay tuned.
Thank you.
Everywhere. Students succeed. On their students' past performance, behavior, and set goals and create working groups specifically for her class. Her experience in the classroom to see where Joey and his classmates excel or struggle and targets her instruction to meet their needs. Ms. Bullen uses data about Joey's where he may be struggling. She also talks with Joey about his own data, and they work together to set goals. Throughout the year, Ms. Bullen and her principal review her performance data together to evaluate how she's doing with different students, standards, and concepts, and to note strengths and opportunities. This information to help identify the best ways to support Ms. Bullen and her colleagues. Ms. Bullen and other teachers meet regularly for training and to use data to solve problems and identify promising practices. They also have access to powerful tools that let them know when kids may be getting off track. Midway through the year, Ms. Bullen sees that Joey is at risk of failing. Ms. Bullen works with Joey, his parents, and his other teachers to get him on track. By the end of the year, Joey's data shows that he's on track for success, though he'll continue to need support. When teachers are empowered with data, everyone does better. Learn
Adverse formative assessment. On the top menu, click on formative assessment. Note that weekly assessment to test evidence of learning per topic on all subjects. Report with progress analytics can be shared with parents. You can click here to view a sample report. Select the date covered and click on apply. Select the subject, class or grade, term and session. Enter the topic covered. Note that you cannot input more than 50 characters. Then click on search and proceed. Enter all the student scores. Place your cursor on related links and click on formative assessment report. Select the date covered and click on apply. Select the class or grade, term and session. Then click on search and proceed. The formative assessment report for the class searched for is displayed comprehensively. Analytics of all the students in the class is shown, ranging from their strengths and weaknesses that needs improvement. Do you still need help? You can contact our support team via support@adverse.net.
Adverse is Africa's leading digital educational platform, which enables administration, communication, finance, teaching, and learning beyond the classroom. Adverse allows you as a parent to access and track your child's academic reports and personal growth at any time, giving you a better understanding of your child's academic performance.
Have a nice day at school.
We give you the security and reassurance you need to excel in your daily activities and manage your financial obligations to your child's education. Advis provides an administrative and management system which enhances accountability, teamwork, and growth needed for a thriving organization. Which brings perfect results. Teach creatively, learn effectively, track your child's performance easily, and do so much more with Advis. Advis, digital education. Visit www.advis.net to get started now.
Okay, so we're back for the second part of our webinar. Welcome back, Mr. Ademeji.
Thank
So,
you.
sir, so for this section, we're going to be focusing on the classroom and how teachers can actually use what they currently have to improve learning outcomes. So my first question here would be, how can teachers use data from assessments, student attendance, and classroom interactions to personalize the learning experience, address individual students' needs, and improve overall learning outcomes in the classroom?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. You know, there's been quite a number of articles and videos that people are making, especially those motivational speakers, that they will just talk about, they will just run down education. They will just say education is not changing. So there was even one that made a video that showed how they started building automobile. To say it started with two legs, then 3 legs and 4 legs, and then it's now looking better now. That the way education is, that student will sit, teacher will teach. Since the vehicles have 2 legs up to today, that we are now having autonomous vehicle, that's still the same way teaching and learning still happen. I won't blame them, but what I will say is this: the difference between the education of today and education of tomorrow and education of the past is not going to be the seating arrangement, because people sit in the car. The students don't sit in the class, they learn. So it's only if we look at it from that angle to say classroom is for sitting, then we will all get it wrong. But classroom is for learning, and the teachers can make sure that now that we have autonomous vehicle, after so many years, the teachers can make sure that now we teach better with data. Because the difference between the classroom of today and tomorrow and classroom of yesterday is the use of data. That's why I am happy that this particular program today is unleashing teaching and learning with data. To unleash the learning, quality learning with accelerated learning is using data, because data creates the direction. There is a saying that if you are running without a direction, speed is not an advantage, it's a disadvantage. If you are teaching without a direction, it's a disadvantage. It is better we don't even teach than to teach without a direction. Data set the direction. And when we say data, I'm not talking about buying Airtel data or Etisalat data. No, I'm talking about information on where the students are. Oh, good morning, students. Good morning, auntie. You think you know the student by names, but you need to do beyond knowing the student by name and go into how and where they are coming from as against what you want to teach them for that day. There are students that maybe you want to teach them about irrigation. Before some students will get to school that day, maybe they have crossed over canal, they have crossed over bridges to come to school. Some students, they have never crossed bridges, they've never crossed over canal for that day. When you want to teach irrigation, you need to understand those students that have seen waterfronts that day or that week or even in their life before. Then those students, it means that you have data about where they are coming from. To teach those students about irrigation, the knowledge that has been built up in seeing waterfront, seeing river, seeing irrigation that day has already helped them to get to the halfway of what you want to teach on irrigation. It is just to see how water can leave that place and go to the farmland. That is what is left. But the students that have not seen river that day, they are coming from another angle that is far from those that have seen the river. So there is a need to make sure that we know the students through data. And the data I'm talking about is not personal data. It is the data of the priori knowledge. Because learning don't happen in silo. According to Dr. Carl Henry, that wrote a book on how learning happens, he said the best form of learning is when you are able to connect the previous experience and knowledge of a learner to what you are teaching them today. That way, the students in their brain, they can connect the dots. If you learn anything, go and test it. Chukwuka, if you learn anything and you cannot connect it to your previous experience, give it some time. You will forget easily. But if you learn something and you can connect it to your previous experience, you will remember either that thing you have learned or previous experience, and because the dot has been connected, you will always remember what is linking to that experience. And if what you have learned as a child is all linking to one experience and previous experience and previous experience, that is what will form the accelerated learning we are talking about. But teachers that teach the student without first assessing for knowledge, then you won't be able. You won't be able because you won't be able to deliver the teaching, because it is very easy. If you enter into a class today, in practical sense, good morning, student, good morning, this. We are learning this. Who can tell me something about this thing we want to learn today? You'll be shocked that some students, they have experiences that they can add to make learning effective and make learning, the outcome of that topic to be much more effective, because they have experiences that they can bring to the class to contribute to learning. And that is what we call assessment for learning, so that you know where the students are. Don't just teach the student you don't know. And knowing them means you know them per time, per topic on the experiences you want to teach. If you don't know them per the topic or scheme you want to teach, it means you don't know the students. That's why all these online courses, only 15% of them are successful, even before COVID-19. Adults that watch online courses before COVID-19 lockdown, only 15% of them completed the courses. And during the COVID-19 lockdown, we have several videos that were just recorded by random people, and students will watch. They will, some of them that are beautiful, they will get entertained, because some of these online teaching, they are not connecting to experiences of students. And that is how learning happens. So teachers can use data to connect to the experiences of students. The moment you listen to students say something, you already know that thing about them. The next time you want to teach anything in line with that topic and experience they have shared, it is easy for you to refer back to it and then bring it into the conversation. You can even ask that child to come forward and talk about the river they are seeing today, because you want to teach irrigation. So don't teach the students you don't know. And you can only know the student by data. And the data I'm referring to in this context, it is the data of the experience of the student side by side with the topic you want to teach for that day. So it's a whole lot of work. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for that response. Exactly, like you said, teachers should be able to understand the unique experiences of their learners, understand what they know, and what the new topic you're going to teach them, how it reflects to what they know. And you also pointed out something in terms of assessment, right, and tracking data. It's as data does not necessarily have to be structured in an examination or writing down format. Just you conversing with the students and trying to understand what they know can be your source of data to show how you can actually organize your lessons for the day, right? It could be something as short as a 5 minutes, a 3 minutes conversation, even before the lesson starts, to understand the unique experiences of your learners. With this, it even makes it easy for the students themselves to flow with the lesson, because you started from what they know, and now you're moving into the unknown. And definitely using this system, the teaching and learning process will be accelerated in the classroom. So thank you very much for that. Teachers in the group, please do well to put your questions, especially how to manage and improve the learning outcomes in your classrooms. Okay, so sir, my next question will be about building capacity for educators, right? We know that many school teachers and administrators lack training in data interpretation and application. What practical steps can schools take to build capacity among educators and school leaders to effectively leverage data in decision making?
Yes, someone is talking about motivation for teacher, incentive, and everything. Do you know that I have seen teachers that they have walked away from this issue of motivation and incentives, and they have created a fortune for themselves by being on by being on another gear entirely in their career. I've seen teachers that have created fortune for themselves without waiting for either an employer or government to always be the one to determine their economy in their home. You know, there is always a need for you to walk away from what you cannot change, and then walk towards what you can change for yourself. Create a profile that attracts finance, that attracts, income. Create a profile that makes people to invite you for training other teachers. Learn more than other people. Be so connected with people that you can add value to and get value from them. Teaching is no longer when you only teach the student in the classroom. You can make yourself a voice in the education space, and you will be invited for so many things. You can do research and get grants and earn a good pay from grants, even though you are still teaching. There are different ways that people have walked away from that. So let me address the issue of capacity development. It starts with the person. It starts with the person because even the use of phones, I know teachers that they tell their kids to be the one to send email for them. I'm not actually blaming anybody. But what I'm trying to say is that let us begin to focus on digital literacy. I know teachers that are very sound in this area, and I know the teachers that are struggling in the common email, being able to check email regularly and send email. Many know how to use Facebook, they know how to use WhatsApp, but when it comes to email, which is the simplest, in fact, it's one of the simplest things you can do on the internet. A lot don't know how to send email, but they can chat on WhatsApp, they can send email, they can send messages on Facebook, they can like, they can share, they can do so many video editing and post it on social media. They can edit images and post on social media. But how to send email, some people don't know it. So there is a need for teachers to take their future in their hands. I've been advocating for teachers. So I'm coming back. Capacity development begins from teachers. And also those that are in the authority and leadership in education should take regular digital literacy training for teachers, very serious. And also digital leadership training for the leaders in the school. And also creating continuous awareness on using data to teach. I said continuous because it is not a one-off thing. I've seen many, we say, oh, we have trained our teachers. When? 6 months ago. What is the next plan for another teaching? They don't know. Everything is a build-up. You need every school, privates and public, need a systemic plan, a strategy on how to build capacity for teachers in digital literacy. It is not a one-off thing that, oh, we have done it 2 years ago and that's all. Or we did it yesterday, we finished yesterday. Ask them, what is the outcome? And then what is the next thing from here? Many will not be able to say. We don't teach one-off and say that's all. We have to keep doing it. In fact, there are teachers that even when you teach them 2 weeks, you are just teaching them how to handle mouse and how to send email. And that is what they will do. Then the next 6 months, what you will do is you will come on top of that and build on top of it. Somebody is talking about artificial intelligence now. There are teachers that are at that level already, that they can leverage all this AI, GPT thing to do so many stuff for themselves. Then let us build on top of that. We don't take teaching in digital literacy as a one-off thing. We need to take it as a continuous work, and it has to be digital literacy training, digital leadership training for the leaders, awareness on how to use data, and also getting the discipline to embrace the learning outcomes through data. Every teacher should be able at the end of the term present to the school to say, this is the data of my class. I met these students at this level and now they're at this level. These students, when they handed them over to me from primary 1, 7 of them had A's all through. And then now I'm handing them over to primary 3. Now 12 of them had A's. Then you should be able to present your work. You should be able to present a PowerPoint on where you have come, where you have started with the student, what you have done in their life, and what you are passing to the next teacher in another class. Embracing how to use data to present outcome should be very important, so that all the digital literacy skills that we are talking about will be used, will be utilized. There are schools, there are states that they will train teachers on digital literacy and then they will return back to pen and paper. They will train teachers on how to create prompting on AI, then they will return to pen and paper. I have seen it firsthand, so I know what I'm talking about. You don't train people without pushing them to use the knowledge you have given to them. When you do training, it has to be in the system that the training, the knowledge the teachers get from the training is put to use. And that is how to address that capacity. When you build capacity, allow the teacher to use the capacity. When you train them, allow the teachers to use the training. The Ministry of Education should not go to school when you are trained teacher on digital literacy on how to capture data. The Ministry of Education should not go to school and then take pen and paper there and expect the teacher to also give them attendance with pen and paper. So what is the training? I mean, what's the essence of the training in the first place? So everything has to be continuous. It's not a one-off thing. Digital literacy, digital leadership, and continual awareness and incentive to use the training that has been given. I hope I've done justice to this. Someone is talking about AI, artificial intelligence. There are quite a number of these happening, in EdVest already. You don't even need to do too much in learning how to create your own prompts. EdVest has everything inside. When you are in EdVest, even from your dashboard, you can see students that are struggling, you can see students that are doing well, and you can get prompting from AI on what you can do to help students move from different level of the journey of training. So there are quite a number of things that you can achieve with your data on EdVest. Chukwuka or Cynthia?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that response. You have actually said a lot in relations to how. First, you talked about teachers themselves being taking charge of their own learning, right? Teachers to have digital trainings, for teachers to have digital trainings, and also for these trainings to actually be implemented in the classroom, it would not be proper. The technology or the skill that they learn, and just continue teaching with the primitive old ways of. So definitely our trainings that they teach into the classroom will go a long way in one upscaling your sure that the teaching and learning process in the classroom is seamless. Okay, so thank you very much for that response, sir. So my next question would be around the trends. Now, education technology tools and platform gaining tractions. How can schools ensure that the data collected is accurate, actionable, and used ethically to guide decisions and improve education quality and equity?
Okay, so that question, I really appreciate it because, you are talking about, capacity building using data again. And the question is about what practical steps can school take? Is that what you're saying? I just want to confirm
Yes,
the
sir. So,
question. Because you mentioned equity, so I want to confirm what you are connecting together, because there was an issue in between the network. Okay, so I think what I got from you is the question around administrators getting the right training to interpret the data, and also the practical steps one can take, among educators and school leaders to effectively leverage data. Someone is also talking about data on the chart. Maybe we will take that question later. But let me attempt this based on what I heard from you, Chukwuka. So there's a need to just, instead of just moving off, you understand, when we are done teaching, we don't just move off. We document what are the outcomes of that teaching. We document. Every week, we write a documentation of what has happened. And we can only get the right documentation if we have the process that shows that there is an aspect of this process that requires documentation. I have gone to schools in several parts of the world. I have seen how teachings are done in Finland, in America, in different parts of the world. The differences are just the processes. And if we pay attention to the process, let's even take, for instance, the process of engaging parents with what outcome is. Because when you document outcomes of your teaching in a week, to say this student has mastery in this student is struggling here, this student is struggling in this topic, and then we have that built into the system. Then we get the parent to have a copy. We get the school leadership to have a copy. When the parents have a copy, they are able to participate in the partnership that build the child. Because during our own time, my mom will say, go and read your book. She loves education. But the best she could do was just based on the information available to her. She didn't know anything we have done in the school. So she would only talk on what, go and read your book. If the parent get to know that this week in mathematics, they did arithmetics, in English, they did summary. In biology, they did cell. In physics, maybe they did light. And the report of mastery, the report of understanding and competency that a child has built in all these topics, in all these subjects, go to parent on Friday evening. On Saturday, the parent can say, go and read your book. In maths, read arithmetic, because this week you had 30% mastery. The parent will be able to contribute meaningfully into what has happened in the school. And with Edverse, we have taken it to the next level, that we now have artificial intelligence that is now guiding the parents on how to support the children in every topic and every scheme of work covered in a week. So that way, the parents are not left alone. So when we say we don't teach and move on, we teach and document so that we can carry other parties along. Teaching is not only done in the classroom. Parents need to be involved. The school leadership needs to be involved. Government needs to be involved. If everything depends on the teacher, if you are the only one that know the outcome of students in every topic and scheme of work, and the only thing you send to the parent is 70 over 100 at the end of the term, we are not doing anything good for those students. Because there are a lot of information locked in the 70% and the 30% that the child is missing. In between, the difference between the two are a lot of topics and a lot of missing understanding of the students. So we have to teach. And the equity you mentioned, for us to be in equity in teaching and learning, we have to get the data documented, information of outcomes. And that is when we can know those that need brush up in some certain topics before the exam. Before they write WAEC, we need to know those that will not do well in trigonometric ratio. If they get a question in that, in SOD, if they get a question in that, we need to have an idea of students in our classes that will not do well when any question come in SOD. When any question come in, for instance, in comprehension, in English language, in summary, we need to have an idea of the students that are really struggling before they go and write that exam, so that when we are preparing them for WAEC, we have information of weaknesses of students across different topics, and we use that to tutor them. We use that to brush them up for the exam they are going for. We will always wish the student pass well if we don't have data. But if you have data, we will wish they pass well, and we will also do the right thing by giving them the right support where they are weak, so that we can predict the outcome. Because any outcome you can predict in education if the process is in the right direction and we capture the right data. Thank you very much. Chukwuka, can you hear me? Cynthia. Okay.
Good afternoon, sir. Well done very, very much for that. That was very, very insightful. So whilst we are waiting for Chukwuka, I just want us to attend to some questions that our audience have sent across. So we have one: leveraging artificial intelligence. How does it connect with data?
Yes, so leveraging artificial intelligence does it connect to the question is like, let me attempt it this way. Data forms the brain for artificial intelligence. Data is what artificial intelligence is built upon. Artificial intelligence is as good as nothing because it's just a set of algorithms and codes that leverage data to respond back to you. When you say, how can I cook? And you ask GPT or Copilot or any of these guys, the GPT has no information of its own to respond back to you other than the data that has been fed in. The data can be structured and unstructured, but we have so many books that have been written on how to cook. We have so many articles that have been written on how to cook. We have so many informations that have been written on how to cook. And all this information have been crashed together and put inside the database for the GPT and Copilot and all these guys to reason. So when you are asking questions, what GPT is doing is to reason around the information on the data available to respond back to you. So the AI is as good as the data that is available to it. That's why when you are looking for some certain information, GPT will tell you, I don't have this kind of information. When you are asking for information that are not available on the internet, they won't be able to provide you. So that's why connecting the two together to answer you, leveraging artificial intelligence, how does it connect to data? Data is the foundation. Data is the brain for the AI, because the data form the experience for the AI to think. For instance, if you have lived in Ibadan or Enugu very well, and somebody is talking about Enugu, to say there's a roundabout in Enugu or there's a roundabout in Ibadan, so you can speak from the data you have about Enugu and Ibadan. But someone that has never been there before cannot speak on those places. Are you getting me now? So when you feed AI with information on Enugu, AI will be able to talk to you on Enugu as if it has been there. It has been there. So that is what data is all about. Data from the brain for the AI. Remove the data. AI is just a set of algorithms that had no value to anybody. Cynthia.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for that. So we have another one from Kehinde Helen, and she says, what are some key considerations or best practices for ensuring data quality, accuracy, and security in schools, particularly when working with sensitive student information? So I think what she wants to know is, how best do we go about ensuring data is being preserved in a very secure manner, especially when it comes to accuracy, security, and the quality of data we get in schools?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. And I want to start by saying there is a need for every school to have a policy around how to handle data. And also, the second thing is about choosing the right partner when it comes to the software you are using. I know quite a number of school directors and school leaders that if Edvest says that our software is, let's say, 5,000 naira per child in a term, and another company says just pay 100 naira per term, you have the same thing, they go for that one, of which the question should go to say, why is it that Edvest is charging 5,000 naira and another company is charging 100 naira? What are they doing with your data when you put it there? Some are selling your data to make their margin. So you need to choose the partner that are reputable, partners that have, the integrity and the brand that are recognized for you to have the right system in place in your school. Then the second one is that every teacher should be trained on how to handle data. There's a course in secondary school, they call it data handling. And that is part of the training that Edvest give with the software. So when you are trained on how to handle data, then you do the right thing. And another thing is the privilege, access privilege. Don't choose a software that does not have privilege access, because we have some software that when you log in there as a teacher, you see finance, you see everything, of which is not your business. So there should be privilege definition in every software, which is in Edvest, because a teacher that is teaching biology has no business in seeing what is going on in finance, in seeing even the data of the parent. You're just teaching the student. You only need their names and then their scores in the class. So you don't see parent information like phone number or email. So there should be a way to say that if before technology, we don't do this, teachers don't have access to this. When you get a software, that software should also make sure that teachers don't have access to it again. So you don't say teachers don't have access to this physically. You adopt a system that now gives teachers access to everything. Then it means that you are adopting a system that is not in line with your system outside of technology. So it has to be the same. And there is a need for every school to sit down to say, what sort of information can HOD have access to? What sort of information can teacher have access to? What sort of information can accountant have access to? Who has access to everything? Who can control everything? So there is a need to sit down and develop that. And sometimes it's just one-page document, and then you get your vendor to implement it and make sure this is what we want in our software, and then they follow suit before you can adopt it and say, now we are ready to use it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I'm still talking on data. Mr. Esson Ataka Peter joining us from YouTube says, most of our schools don't give prominence to data, which I agree with. In fact, one joins a school newly and you don't have any prior info about the students. How can we engage proprietors to give priorities to data? So this is coming from, you as a new teacher going to a new school, and you want to be able to track, how has this child been doing via data. What's the progress like? Okay, from primary 1 to primary 4. How has the child done in mathematics? How has the progress of the child been in English language? And there is nothing to show for it. We, luckily for us, we have a tool on advanced formative assessment which gives us data according to subject, according to topics. We have that on Edverse. But most of these schools don't have this privilege to access tools like this. So now, how can we engage? Esson Ataka Peter is asking, how can we engage proprietors to give priorities to data? School leaders, school admins, how can we make them know data is really important in this new age? Thank you, sir.
There's a need for advocacy to come in that. If you find yourself in a school where nothing is available, fine. Advocate for something to start. In the journey of technology, we all join at different couch. It's just like you have different, train. When a train is going, you have different couch, Then the one in the front, has passed. Those are the ones that you cannot do anything with them again. But now that you have joined them, can you begin to do something? Can you begin to talk to the likes of Edverse to start digitizing the system for you? And how can that be built into the budget of the school? Do you know that in this age and time, and everybody should quote me anywhere, keeping data and record of teaching and learning on learning outcome is as good as having a building for your school. I'm telling you, because you cannot meaningfully contribute to teaching and learning and raise students that will be so great in society if you don't keep the right data in this age and time, because you will lose so many details on the process of teaching and learning. So having a school building is equal to having a system where you can keep your data. Teachers go, teachers come, your data remains. Previous experiences remain. Outcomes of previous students remains. Maybe your school is weak generally in mathematics. The previous data will show, and you will be able to know that we need to do more, higher qualified hands on mathematics, and train for mathematics. WAEC data. So many schools have been around for 30 years. They cannot say 10 years ago, 70% of students had C in chemistry. They can't say it.
Yeah,
Yet,
I agree with you.
They wish the students they are teaching today, next year May, they wish they pass well in WAEC. It doesn't happen overnight. It has to be intensive action, intensive focus on looking at what has happened in the past, looking forward to where we are going, and doing the right thing today. Data is going to help you to look at what has happened in the past, set targets for the future, and do the right thing today. Can I say it again? The data will make you to look at what has happened in the past, set targets for the future, and do the right thing today. So let your school join today. You can start keeping the record today so that tomorrow you have data. And you can call today, yesterday. And then you can move on from there. You can't say you want to keep data, you want to start entering data of 50 years ago. It will be a lot of wasted effort because some things might not even be correct. But start keeping record today. You don't save costs and say you don't need your school building anymore. Sell it so that students can learn under the tree. So you don't save cost and say we don't need technology. We don't want to renew technology. That's equal to saying you don't need your school building. Go and quote me anywhere.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. This was really, really insightful. Chukuka is back, and I will hand over to him to to continue.
Thank you,
Continue. I was
Cynthia.
really
Thank you
glad to
for
be a part
stopping
of this
in.
conversation.
You can
Thank
just
you very much.
remain so that the two of you can take the questions, like that. I think we should be
Okay, sir.
running off soon. Just stay
Yes,
back and
yes.
then the two of you can be taking the question one after the other. If you have more
Okay,
questions,
I'll
let me
be
know. Thank you. Yeah.
okay. I will be here, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you very much for those amazing questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Dimeji, for your response. I think that will be all for today. There are no other questions on the group.
Okay.
I'd like to thank everyone for joining in. As we begin to round off this webinar, I'd like to encourage us to take the insights that we've gained here and apply them in our roles as educators, as administrators, and as parents. I believe that together we can create a system that is proactive, it's equitable, and responsive to the needs of our students. Thank you for being part of this vital conversation. I'd like to say special thanks to our distinguished speaker, Mr. Dimeji Falano, for sharing his
Thank,
expertise. And to everyone who worked behind the scenes, thank you very much, Cynthia, for making this webinar successful. Let's
thank,
continue the conversation.
thank you for inviting me. I look forward to the
It was
next.
so good to see you, sir. Yeah.
Thank you.
It
Thank
was so
you.
good.
Let's
Yes.
Okay. Bye.
Sir, please, before you go, we need your final words, though. We need your
Okay.
final words, though. This was
Okay.
really, really good. I would like to
action.
Okay.
And
My final word on unleashing teaching and learning
definitely let's
in schools using data will be around the commitment that is required.
unleash the
The commitment that is
power of data in
required
our
by
schools.
the
Thank you very
government.
much. Mr. Dimeji,
Oh, I think Chukwuka is lagging a little. So the commitment
yes, I think so.
required by the government, the school leaders, the teachers, and the parents. Let us teach the students we know. Don't let us teach the student we don't know. And knowing the student does not mean you know them by name or you know their house. Knowing the student, in my own definition, is that I have appeared in your class today as a teacher. I want to teach you arithmetics in primary 2. Or I want to teach you a Greek in GSS 3, and the topic is irrigation. The students in my class, I should be able to know those that have seen irrigation before. I should be able to know the students that have seen rivers before. I've been able to see this. I should be able to know the students that have seen waterfront like ocean before. Then, if I know those students and I know those who have never seen it before, I have the right data of my class. So I have the right knowledge of my student side by side with the topic of the day. So that is what I mean by knowing the students. So don't teach without connecting the dots, without connecting the experience. And it is the data that will help you. And when you are done teaching, don't just be quick to rush off. Document what you have taught, outcomes of the students in that topic for that week, and then be so proud to put the data together and share with the school community to say, I met these students from them at this level, and I'm passing them over to another class at this level. Instead of just saying 70 over 100 or A or B, there are so many things that are locked up in just saying 70 over 100. 14 weeks in a term, 14 topics at minimum, and then you are saying 70 over 100. What has happened to 30%? We need to be able to show what has happened to 70% for you to even say 70%. You need to be able to show. And now this is the age of skill. What kind of skill? Life skill, technical skill, vocational skill that a student can take out from your class session part time. That is going to be the order of the day. The continent is changing. The Nigerian country is changing in education. Everybody is talking about skill. And without data, you can't build the right competence, the right skill for the students. So that is how to unleash teaching and learning using data. And the data we are talking about is the data of previous experiences of students per time, per topic, per week. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chukwuka is back, so I will just round up right now. Thank you for everybody who joined us. We got your questions, and the recording of the webinar will be sent to our emails. As long as you're registered, you will get the recorded webinar. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you hopefully in the next SGA webinar. Cheers, everybody. Yes,
thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
This used to be me. Not anymore. With Edvest, I can oversee and access all my school records from any part of the world. From a single dashboard, I track enrollments, monitor e-learning activities from homework uploaded to video lessons shared, as well as e-notes and CBT. I view payment inflow at a glance, monitor performance, and track attendance. Running a paperless school and reducing operational costs is possible with Edvest. Edvest CBT makes conducting school exams seamless, both online and on the school premises. It gets better. Parents can monitor their children's performance and pay fees. Amazingly, the days of being owed by parents are over. Parents can access school fees loan and you get paid in full. Students have access to assignments, video lessons, e-notes, quizzes, virtual classes, and over 160 math and science simulations. Beyond all this is Edvest's amazing support. It is top-notch. Over 1,300 schools across 10 countries in Africa use and love Edvest today. To see a free demo, log on to www.edvest.net/free demo. Use Edvest today.